And now, it's that time of the week once again. Welcome to the Departure Lounge podcast with your hosts, Tom Whittle and Steve Wooldridge. Your ticket to the home of aviation podcasts. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the flight.
Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to what is episode 30 of the Departure Lounge Departure Lounge podcast, I should say, here on the Departure Lounge YouTube channel. I'm just thrown off a little bit at the moment because everything is all over the place. Good evening, everybody. My name is Tom Whittle, and joining me this evening for what is going to be sort of a somber but also very historic 30th episode of the podcast is my good friend and wonderful co-host, Steve Wooldridge, who is currently not in his usual place. So first of all, good evening, Steve. And as we had a question, not too bad. We had a question last week as to where's Steve. So where is Steve this week?
Well, I'm in a secret location that I can't disclose, but it's Bude, North Cornwall.
So you are literally up the road from where I am at this time.
Yeah, no, you're really lucky. It's absolutely beautiful down there. I went over to Boss Castle and that today, and it was absolutely stunning. So, sort of big up God for giving you such a good county down there.
Not doing shout outs just yet, but we'll take it.
Praise the Lord Jesus.
Fantastic. Also joining us to discuss tonight's topic of conversation is the most northern man in the UK. We will find a new tagline for him, but we'll go with it. It is, of course, resident comment reader Ian Hartley. Ian, good evening to you.
Yeah, good evening to you, Tom. Sorry, but did I interrupt you then? Sorry. Good evening to you, Tom, and good evening to you as well, Steve. I can vouch for where you're staying. I've stayed in that exact hotel only 12 months ago, and it was. It's
I know your photo's still above the door.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
I thought they kept it behind counter. Yeah, don't let him in again.
Yeah, your legend live in a positive way either.
Fantastic. So we're all here. So we'll go into some housekeeping. But before we do, we're not going to put a poll up this evening, just because we've not really sort of thought of anything to ask. However, we've got a little surprise at the end of the show, so do stick around for that if you want to sort of know what that is. But let's get into some housekeeping anyway. So throughout this evening's show, we will be putting up on the screen, for those watching on YouTube, our social medias for you to follow. Not just, of course, the channel, but also you can follow Steve himself and Ian as well. So we'll put those out throughout the evening if you wish to give those a follow. We are on Spotify, which I didn't obviously mention. I've also forgotten to put last week's episode up. So we're doing 2 episodes to go up. One will go up after this one, which will be last week's one. And then tonight's show will go up tomorrow. And I must make sure I do that. So do listen on there, and of course you can take us anywhere you go as we celebrate episode 30 of the podcast. And of course, if you wish to become a guest on the show at any point, any stage, do give us a bit of a shout. Like I said, on our social medias. All you got to do, just drop us a message, say you want to be on the show, and we'll get you on as soon as we can. So, I think we're all good. So, for the first time tonight as well, we are live on Twitter as well. So hello if you're on Twitter and you're watching. I don't know if we're going to get your comments. That's the issue I'm having. But yeah, if you are watching and you are saying hello to you. But yeah, get any comments in, whether you're watching on Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube. We'll be reading them out throughout the show. Got a couple of hellos, Ian.
Yes. I was actually just looking on Twitter. Yeah, Grey Blue. She was watching while the countdown was on, which is fantastic. And she also likes the pie comments, and she should know because she can't put her stuff in the fridge for butter pies. And Marco Barrett says evening, guys, to everybody. So good evening to you, Marcus. Marco, rather.
Marcus.
I apologise. I mean, I was sidetracked. Sorry.
Tut. What I will also say is we sort of, we want your contributions to tonight's topic, of course, which is all about the sad. Some people call it sad, some people don't. But obviously the news that Alitalia will be going bust. What's today? So it's 11th, 12th, what Thursday is it? I will check. It is Thursday. So this Thursday coming, the 14th of October, Alitalia leave our skies. So if you have any contributions, such as pictures, such as any memories at all, do put them into the chat. Send the pictures to us on our social medias, and we'll sort of show them throughout the evening. We have been running a competition to find out which one of you may have the sort of the best Alitalia contribution, and the winner at the end does get a nice little prize. So do get your contributions in. Anyway, shall we crack on with this evening's show?
Yeah. Can I just clarify that the comments on Twitter don't come through?
They don't come through. No, they don't. So I'll keep an eye on those anyway.
Right.
With anything that might come through, which is a shame, but technology is, of course, a wonderful thing. So let's get into it. So we're going to jump into some quick news before we do this. So some quick fire rapid news, and then we are going to jump into tonight's topic of conversation. So the first news that we're going to bring is, of course, the wonderful news that British Airways, of course, are bringing back the Airbus A380. A lot of airlines have been doing this. There's even talk of Qatar bringing theirs back as well, which look destined to be retired. And British Airways plan on bringing this back on the 8th of November, so not long to wait. And they're going to be sort of primarily for short haul services first to, I think we spoke just now, is it Madrid and Frankfurt they were going to?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Those two destinations.
Yes, yeah, so Madrid and Frankfurt, and then they'll then go on to sort of the US operations and stuff. Big news, and of course a big thumbs up and a lot more faith going into the A380 even during this tough time.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason they're doing the Madrid Frankfurt flights is to sort of reacclimatise the cabin crew and everyone with the airlines before they go long haul again. So it's a brilliant idea just to do some short hauls to get everyone up to speed before they start the old operations, as it were. And I'm particularly excited because I've never actually seen the British Airways A380 in the sky. I've seen it parked up plenty enough, so it'll be one I'll definitely get down to Heathrow for at some point in time, for sure.
Definitely, especially now that they're coming back as well. You've got even more reason to sort of go and have a look at them. Ian, obviously, again, fantastic news that British Airways are bringing this beast back.
Absolutely, yeah. Like you said, Tom, it's nice to see that these airlines are having faith in the 380 again, and I think it's, as much as people wrote it off, I think I don't know, people are sort of the airlines particularly are sort of realizing now that it probably is a vital piece of kit, and as far as Qatar is concerned, I think once passenger numbers start building back up again to where they should be, I think Qatar will have to reintroduce a 380 just because they're not using the 350s at the moment, are they? So they need space, don't they? So it really, really is good news, and I think it's a good lifeline as well for the 380 that it's not actually going to be written off quite yet. I think there's a bit of life left in it yet.
Absolutely, and like I said, I think this has done is this has spurred on the likes of Qatar and that, who we sort of brought on the show good sort of couple months back, who were looking to actually maybe retire them.
Yeah.
So now it's a case of they're actually going to do something about it and bring them back. And obviously this has started a bit of a domino effect. And obviously Qatar have decided, well, if British Airways are bringing theirs back, we're going to do the exact same. So there may be life in the young girl still.
Yeah. Do you think though that their days are still ultimately numbered though, compared to like the 350 and Neos and what have you?
Yeah, 100%.
I do too.
As much as it will suck to sort of say it, there is very limited life in them. I know the likes of China Southern were sort of an airline that was sort of looking to maybe get rid of theirs as well. Obviously, Singapore have started to retire and phase out and scrap theirs as well, sort of the older versions of them. So, yeah, there is room to. They'll be around for maybe a couple more years. I know Qantas have big plans for theirs. So they'll sort of probably be. I imagine Qantas would end up being the last operator, I think, unless Emirates do something incredibly drastic and decide to get rid of them as a huge bunch. But maybe Qantas or Emirates will probably be the last operator of them. Of course, Emirates are going to get the last couple of 380s that get built. So
I think they're quite limited to becoming cargo planes because there's only a handful of runways they're actually going to get into, so they might not actually even get a go afterwards.
It won't work. It simply won't work. Just very quickly before we go on to the next one, the likes of FedEx and UPS looked at the A380 to begin with and thought, well, we could have this as a freighter aircraft because it would be capable of carrying a lot more. It just wouldn't work. And I think we discussed this, didn't we, Ian? It just would not work as a freighter aircraft.
I don't think the. I don't know whether it be the integrity of the aircraft or something with that kind of extra weight on board, or what. I really, really don't know what it would be. But obviously, with space and things like that, I think the actual top deck, as much as it's got a lot of headroom in the middle, sort of thing, I think it's quite narrow in regards to like a freighter, and I think that the sides sort of slope down too steep to make it really viable for the cargo containers, what the actually, the pallets.
That's it.
And I just don't think the pallets would be quite right to go into a top deck of an A380. So,
no.
Yeah, and like you said yourself, Steve, you're absolutely limited, aren't you, to what airports you can land at?
Yeah,
which isn't any good, really. Yeah.
If you're flying stop, say from Edinburgh to like the States, you're going to have to then road transit it to get to a runway where it'll be efficient to be able to take it off from. It's just, logistically, it's just not going to work, is it? For them?
Yeah.
No. So that's fantastic news that it's coming back. The last sort of bit of news that we're going to talk about before we jump into tonight's topic is the fact that Air France and KLM both celebrated sort of birthdays this year, with Air France celebrating the 88th year of operations. And KLM are also celebrating 102 years. So it's a big milestone for both airlines to have reached. And of course, both of those are sort of merged as a bit of a group. So, so big congratulations to them for reaching 88 and 102.
It's a real shame for KLM that we're obviously in the grips of what's been going on for the centenary, so it never got the celebration it quite deserved, did it? But the fact that those two airlines have made those years, when obviously what we're talking about shortly they haven't, is testament to how well they've done, and not to miss opportunity. Happy birthday, chaps!
Nicely said. Like we're good pals with Air France and KLM.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
No, it's brilliant. Obviously, the longevity of these two airlines to still be around, and they got through all the adversities to be where they are today is fantastic. And hopefully there'll be many more airlines sort of getting up to those numbers. So it is very good news for them.
Definitely. On the screen now, if you're watching on YouTube, we are going through the social medias. As we say, we do want your contributions towards memories and pictures. If you want to win a prize, it is a competition that has been ongoing. So do get your sort of pictures and everything, and obviously your memories into the chat. But send your pictures to any of the social medias that we have, and we'll get them shown at the end of the show. Let's get on to tonight's topic of discussion. So, as we've said, October 14th is when an Italian icon, I don't care how anybody sees it, they are very iconic for many reasons, really, and not just in aviation. As we mentioned last week, they are a big name in terms of motorsport because they are very much relied with or sort of paired up with obviously the Lancia Stratos for anybody that is into their cars, and you know the name of the airline and the liveries and everything is very synonymous, a bit like sort of a brand, a bit like what Pan Am sort of were back in the 90s, in the 80s and around their sort of existence. Of course, we are talking about Alitalia this evening. So we've all got our own little sort of tribute. Steve's got a T-shirt on with Alitalia written on it. Ian has his backgrounds with pictures and everything. Of course, I've got airline posters, which you can see literally just there, and everything else. So, like I said, get your chats in, and we will get them read out throughout the evening. But let's start with, of course, Alitalia and their foundings. How they were formed, basically. So Alitalia, they were founded originally, of course, because they've had multiple resurrections, shall we say, but initially founded in 1946 under Alitalia Linee Aerei Italiani. Italian airline, and they were, they are sort of based around Rome in Italy as well. And Ian, they're a fascinating airline when we've been doing a bit of research on them, aren't they?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the history it goes back, right to the beginning of time, really, doesn't it? Right back to when aviation began, really, and it's a shame for them. They've, I mean, going back through the history, without digging into it too deep, and and sort of, you could sort of like go right back through the history, but they've just not found a business model what works for them, I think, and I think that's been part of the problem. And I don't know whether it's because it was privatized, it was run independently, it was state run, it's been mucked around and messed around with that many times that it's just not been able to find itself. Like you were talking about KLM and Air France, where they've just been left to get on with it, sort of thing. Where Alitalia has been, it's been dabbled in, it's been messed about with, and I just don't think it's ever been able to find its own foothold in the marketplace. And that could be part of the downfall, sort of thing. But like you say, it's synonymous as a brand, isn't it? I go back. I remember the like Audi Quattros and things like that back in there with with your rallying and things like that, and you can always remember the Alitalia symbol stuck all over them and what have you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Their sort of beginnings, Steve, was quite interesting as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. They're quite a large British influence. They were actually created by the Italian government and BAE, sort of coming up with the idea for an Italian, sort of like a national Italian an airline. And their first flight was in 47 on May the 5th. and they flew a G12 Alconi. I can't say it, I'm not Italian, but hopefully you know what I mean. And it just did a little hop, Turin to Rome via Titania, I believe it was. So a lot of their early days was Turin to Rome. That was sort of their staple routes there. And the first year of operating, they carried 10,000 passengers just doing that route. So you obviously think when it started, wartime had just sort of ended, and there was a lot of uncertainty in the world. So 10,000 doesn't seem a lot. It's a decent number of passengers, given how troubled everything was. And I'm sure the economic state of everything wouldn't have been amazing. So they
absolutely
started off quite well for them.
Yeah. So, like I say, Turin to Catania was, and Rome was sort of their main kind of sort of business before sort of adding the likes of Milan as a airport to serve from, and actually going down to South America as well in sort of as a sort of their first intercontinental flight. Which was in a Savoia Marchetti SM-95. If you don't know what it is, Google it up. It is a very Italian aircraft. It's a 4-engined airliner that was also used on European routes as well. So, obviously, Alitalia was sort of a small airline to begin with, and they merged with Linee Aerei Italiani, which then became obviously Alitalia Linee Aerei Alitane. But going through sort of their history and that, obviously they've operated some very iconic aircraft, haven't they?
Yeah, well, even back in 1947, they had the Avro 691 Lancastrian DC-3. So they had some pretty kind of vintage aircraft. And went on to the SM-95, which was the South America. But in the 50s, they were quite pioneering. They had the first all-female cabin crew, and they were in 1951. They were the first airlines to ever offer a two-to-air pass on the longest service flights. So they were quite kind of an edge for what they were at the time. I'm sure.
Definitely. And obviously, like I say, they also entered in the sort of the jet age as well, with sort of ordering the likes of the DC-8 and the Caravelle, and sort of the 60s was a vital sort of decade for Alitalia, with being able to order sort of the jet aircraft like the DC-8. And of course the Caravelle, which allowed it to operate to more sort of European cities.
Yeah, and they had a massive sort of shot in the arm, because in 1960 Rome held the Olympics, and they were made the official airline, so their brand flashed absolutely everywhere during that time. So that was a major shot in them. And they were looking quite healthy around that time with that sort of global recognition and what have you.
Absolutely. Anything to add on that, Ian?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was back in the 1960s when they first carried 1 million passengers per year, weren't it? So, like you said, at that particular point, considering they'd only been going for, I don't know, 1947 to 1960, it's only 13 years, isn't it? So in that short space of time, they've gone from flying 26 passengers over the Alps wearing oxygen masks because the aircraft weren't pressurized, to carrying 1 million people transcontinental. So in that 13 years, they've come a hell of a long way, haven't they?
Absolutely.
But the merger you talk about earlier on there, Tom, actually signalled the start of like the iconic tail livery that we've all become accustomed to. That was sort of the amalgamation of the two. Was that point that they went for what we used to. So it stuck around for like 50 odd years. That iconic tail on it.
There's not many airline liveries or airlines out there that kind of keep their image for sort of this whole time, but also freshen it up a little bit. So the likes of, I think, American Airlines can't really be put into that that sort of category, because they obviously changed their livery up, but they kept it for a very long time, all the way through like late 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s to the noughties to the 2010s before obviously changing it. So it's that kind of class and style that they sort of decided to keep sort of throughout the years, going down that route, but also at the same time modernizing it each and every time that they were bringing out different liveries. So it's their brand, it's their it's their legacy, isn't it? It's how you identify Alitalia.
Even when it leaves our eyes, it will be instantly recognisable. If Ian took the words away from the picture behind him there and said, "Who's this?" in 5-10 years' time, I imagine everyone watching who's got the sort of vaguest interest in aviation would be able to go bang on, and that's Alitalia without even second guessing it. So it's become iconic, hasn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We'll go on to sort of how many times they've been rebranded shortly. But obviously, Ian said they started to carry sort of 1 million passengers a year, but it only took them 30 odd years to start carrying 25 million passengers annually in the 1990s, which was obviously huge for the airline to be able to carry that many passengers. Obviously, the fact that they carried that many passengers allowed them to set up a regional airline. Of course, we know now as Alitalia. They call it Alitalia Express back then, but they call it, I should say, was it Cityliner or something? I think they call it now. Someone will probably correct me, but 2001. Obviously, that's when Alitalia became a member of the SkyTeam Alliance as well, and going through the 90s and the 2000s, it was also another sort of crucial decade, the 90s and the 2000s for Alitalia in terms of sort of growth and sort of productive wise, ordering sort of more aircraft. Of course, this is when the A320s and A321s came into play, and obviously they were looking to long haul operations, and of course ordered the 777.
Yeah, and just sort of taking you back a few years, they 1970s they acquired their 747, and it was at that point they properly went to now with the long green stripe along the side and that. So it was the 747 that was responsible for giving us delivery that we know and love today. And as soon as they got the 747, it opened them up to do Asian flights. They were going over to Japan and places like that. So again, although it doesn't seem it, 60s, 70s, it was still sort of early ages of aviation travel. So to be able to get from Rome to Japan, Tokyo, whatever, was absolutely huge back in the 70s or whatever. So they weren't doing it all terribly wrong at that point in their existence. But obviously, it's all caught up with them over time.
Yeah, it is. It's let's say the 747 is iconic for many reasons. But yeah, to bring in the livery that we all sort of know and love now, it just goes to show just how much of an icon it actually was. And like the 747 coming into play was huge for them, because it was sort of a message to all the other European airlines that we can also sort of play with you, really, in terms of ordering the likes of the 747 and big aircraft and operating these routes to Asia, as Steve said. So it was definitely a statement for them to get the 747s. And of course, over the years, their 747s wore some very iconic liveries. Of course, one being Bachi, I think it is, and of course it was sort of blue. I've got a model of it, but it's put away. And of course, there's the silver, all silver 747 as well, to I can't remember where it was promoting this, but someone will say it anyway. I can't think of the name of the livery, but I know what it looks like. It's like the all silver 747. But it's iconic, and it's that kind of era that you remember, whether you were sort of around or not, because you see photos of these on the internet, and sort of think, wow, I wish I'd seen the Alitalia 747s, and they stayed in the fleet for a very long time.
Yeah, 2002 they finally got rid of it and replaced it with 777s. So it had a decent life, 32 years or whatever it would have been. So it obviously did some miles for them.
Absolutely.
But
so
you like to think
I was going to add to that with the 747s that when they purchased the 747-200s, they actually bought them, some of them in the passenger freighter configuration as well. So, I mean, they were still thinking ahead, weren't they? That some of these 747s could have been used as freight if they wanted to use them for freighters. And also in '84, they became was it the MD-80s? They became the second, the second biggest user, if you want, of MD-80s. So
absolutely,
the second biggest buyer of MD-80s. So they were massive. They really were a massive airline back then, weren't they? That I don't know. It just didn't work for them, did it?
No. So they've operated. I mean, we'll go on to what they operated, or what they will have operated by the time that obviously Thursday turns up. Sort of, what that will kind of what they operated over the years, and we'll look at the turnover and we'll look at sort of the financial side of things shortly. But a little fun fact for anybody that sort of may not know is that did you guys know that they ordered the 747-400s?
No, the only fun fact I was going to give you, they were the first airline to ever fly the Pope anywhere, but your one's much more impressive.
So a fun fact, and if anybody sort of knows what I'm on about, you feel free to sort of post it into the chat there. But before I do go on, Marco Barrett says he might be half Italian, but he can't help us with any pronunciations of any Italian places. So, yeah, thanks. And also at the same time, the name of the livery that I was on about was Bulgari. I think it's aluminium watches.
Okay, right, yeah.
So it's a nice livery. It's a very nice livery. But yeah, fun fact: Alitalia ordered the 747-400s. I think they were to initially replace the 200s. They had them all configured. They had because how after each plane they have their like assigned number. So like British Airways is like 777-236 or etc. They had their number assignment, and they weren't taken up. So a question to you two is: guess who actually did take them up?
Oh, I will go for KLM, something like that.
Okay, Ian.
747-400s.
Yeah.
I'm tempted to say Aer Lingus or something.
No.
Where did you find them?
No, absolutely not. You're just saying that. No, it was actually Virgin.
Ah.
Virgin actually took them. So when you look through the history of the 747s for Virgin Atlantic, when you see the ones that are designated with 443 at the end, they are the ones that should have gone to Alitalia, not Aer Lingus.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. Extra points for anybody in the chat that can put the regs of the aircraft that should have gone to Alitalia, and we'll bring them up throughout the evening.
Yeah. And a bonus point if they can find me a different podcast to go on.
Yeah. Well, there is one.
There is one.
What's that channel called?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, even in the 80s, they were buying A300s, and then they bought MD-80s in 83 as well. So, and the MD-82. So they were still really adding to their fleet as the time went on.
It was just cramming their fleet full of loads of aircraft that we would have seen over here in the UK and obviously different European countries. Obviously, like I say, from the 60s when they had the DC-8s, Heathrow used to see a lot of them. The 70s, the 747s that sort of occasionally popped in. DC-10s came in as well. Of course, they operated DC-10s, which, like I said, we'll go through eventually. And like you said, with the MD-80s and 82s, and that very very iconic for the airline, and very much a workhorse as well. Only recently retired from the fleet totally. So,
did you ever see him? I didn't see him at Heathrow.
I used to see them all the time, but I've only got a few pictures of them. I think I've got one in particular that sort of stands out for me, but I do have a few other pictures elsewhere. I think they were regular into Manchester.
I have no idea. I've never seen one.
Oh yeah, Ian's never seen one.
I've never even heard of them before today. What is an Alitalia?
Yeah.
I thought they were an Irish airline.
Aer Lingus apparently operate the 747-400, so there's something new.
The 747, didn't they?
Yeah, 100s, but you know.
Oh, sorry. Right.
I've not had the privilege of sitting in the jump seat, but there you go.
Yeah. That's another story for another day, young man.
That is a story for another day. But yeah, so they were definitely adding a lot of aircraft to their fleet in order to sort of, I suppose in a way, like the demand was there because everyone was sort of wanting to fly them. Really, in that case, if you know, operating all these like MD-80s, 82s, and of course, like I say, later on, it's sort of like I think they were one of the first operators of the A321, if I'm correct. As well, so they're not an airline that's just not an airline that's just sitting there doing nothing. It's they are there to kind of bring a bit of like history in, especially like say one of the first ones to operate the A321s and stuff. So,
but again, even in the 90s, they were buying MD-11s for the Asian routes and that. So it was almost like you say, they were cramming aircraft in. And possibly about the demand. So it'd be like us three going out and buying 6 or 7 cars, and you only really need like the one car. We've just gone sort of balmy buying aircraft left, right, and centre.
One to go to your family's house, one to go here, one to do long journeys, and etc. etc. So yeah, it's another sort of workhorse for Alitalia was the MD-11. Of course, we'll get on to that shortly. But like I said, do keep getting comments in. We want to know all about your, whether it's like plane spotting histories or whether you've seen something that's really, really cool to do with Alitalia. If you've got any Alitalia memorabilia, do let us know in the chat, and we'll get it onto the screen as soon as you get that on. Get the comments through. But yeah, shall we? We'll sort of go through the slow kind of like demise of the airline. So we'll do. Yeah, so we'll do basically in 2007. Excuse me, in 2007, the airline announced that it would halve its hub at Milan Malpensa and focus on its main hub, which is Rome, and move all sort of intercontinental flights over to Rome. Until this announcement, Milan was pretty much sort of the main hub for Alitalia before switching over to Rome. And 2008 was sort of when it was sort of a bad year for Alitalia because that's sort of the first of what is a few bankruptcies.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously 2008 they filed for bankruptcy and laid off the workers. But in 2009 they went out and acquired Air One in an attempt to be more dominant within the marketplace, which kind of begs the question: where did they find the capital if they're about to go bankrupt to buy out another airline? But they obviously found it from somewhere, shareholders or whatever.
Yeah. So there was a group that were formed called the Compagnia Aerea Italiana, which was a little consortium which basically was bought to buy the old Alitalia and merged that airline with, obviously, like you said, Air One. They offered €1 billion to acquire parts of Alitalia, and they came back as the new Alitalia in January of 2009 when they launched operations. And the owners of the Compagnia Aerea Italiana sold 25% of the company shares to the Air France KLM group. So it sort of became almost like a trio after that. And quite interestingly is that the new Alitalia hasn't claimed the history of the old Alitalia. It's almost like it's just completely done away with it and sort of want to create its own sort of history, which is, I mean, I don't know if I agree with that, because it's like, for an airline that was formed in the 40s, in the 40s, and for all that history of how you kind of gained that sort of popularity and how you became what you were before bankruptcy, to kind of just do away with that seems a bit off.
Well, for football fans, it's very MK Dons, isn't it? That whole situation there, where they've sort of stolen everything to do with business, but done away with all the history and sort of have to go their own way with it. And it's not, well, in the footballing world, it's not a popular decision. And likewise, I don't suppose Italy in particular were too thrilled that they've done away with heritage, when obviously heritage is so important to the Italians in general. So it does seem a strange one that they should sort of go up their roots a little bit on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to say you can you can take what you were saying and you can sort of wind it back to the 80s as well. I was just reading up on something then where Alitalia's strategy during the 1980s was to diversify in order to compete effectively in a deregulated airline industry. So straight away, you've got Italy's been, you've got your national airline now. It's just been flooded with outsiders coming in trying to steal a piece of the pie, haven't they? So the policy resulted in founding of such enterprises as Aeron Mediterranea, a small airline servicing national connections, and Sigma, a tourist company. Ultimately, however, diversification proved to be unsuccessful. So, remember we were talking about Air Berlin. We were talking about a few weeks ago, where
that's right.
They've sort of got the market now. They've got their airline. They've got everything ready. And what they're going to do now is just absolutely plow money into absolutely everything, and it's just gone belly up for them, hasn't it? Years later, so it's a similar kind of story, isn't it? Where they've become too big for the boots, really, haven't they?
Part of the problem is, so when these first started in 70s, 80s, whatever, if you're Air France, British Airways, whatever, you almost had the monopoly out of London and that. And nowadays, Alitalia have got to compete with EasyJet, Ryanair, all these other companies, whereas previously they were just the airline for Italy. And I dare say the Italians would have gone, yeah, perfect, we'll fly with those. But nowadays, it's easy. They're offering you the same service to the same airport for 40, 50 euros cheaper. Why would you jump on the old airline? You just wouldn't go for it, would you?
You wouldn't do, but it's worked all right for KLM and Air France, hasn't it?
Yeah, to a point.
Still going, aren't they? I think a lot of Alitalia's problem. Well, I'm not going to say it's a problem for them, but you only have to look at the geographical map of Italy. It's so hilly and so hard to get from A to B because you've got mountains and you've got this and you've got the other, and you're surrounded three sides by sea and things like that. And I just don't think, you can strategically place big enough airports for transcontinental flight in some of the places in Italy where, in this country, for instance, it's pretty much flat and we can get from A to B relatively easy. But in places like Italy, to get from bottom of Italy to get yourself to a transcontinental airport or something like that, you're going to struggle, aren't you? So I think geographically it's not, the best place to, to form a massive airline like Alitalia, really.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Yeah, if you're right down the bottom of Italy and you've got to fly up to Rome to then get your flight across to America or Milan or wherever, it becomes arduous, doesn't it? Rather than just sort of like yourself, you could go to Manchester and I could go up the Heathrow or whatever, and it's not and not a million miles out the way to do it. But
that's it.
to travel to Italy is a bit different.
Absolutely. And with the airline now, the airline industry being deregulated, people like Ryanair and EasyJet and I suppose smaller sort of Italian carriers now are doing like the Loganair type flights and things like that, where they're just doing a flight from bottom of Italy to top of Italy for half the price of what Alitalia would do it. So,
yes, and of course the rebranding of Alitalia to the new Alitalia didn't really last long because the airline sort of started to face troubles probably within the sort of first year of its sort of relaunch. So in the first year of its relaunch, it carried 22 million passengers, which was great. 2011, 25, so there was a nice sort of increase on that. But February 2010, it was announced that the crew of Alitalia would go on a 4-hour strike over wages. And obviously the merger that it had with Air One would be sort of the low cost carrier, so it's almost like its own Ryanair, and with operations at Milan, whilst of course they focused on Rome, and the airline was to be used for smaller sort of short haul leisure routes, and ultimately. This is a completely different business plan to what the original Alitalia had, wasn't it? To kind of throw Air One in there as a low cost carrier for the airline.
Yeah, but the strange thing is, back in 2010, they were still buying more aircraft. They went and bought the A330s at that point, and it was only a couple of years later they ended up retiring the MD-80. So they were still splashing cash like it was coming out their ears without having cash coming out their ears. So
that's it. Spending money they don't have, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yes. So going back to that, the airline was in such sort of dire straits that basically late 2013 they were facing bankruptcy and a loss of a major fuel supplier and the possible grounding of Italy's Civil Aviation Authority. The airline announced a €500 million rescue package, which included a $75 million investment by the Italian state-owned postal operator. Now, of course, in terms of the older, in terms of this group here, of course, this was taken over by the Italian politician Silvio Berlusconi and some of his they call them cronies, which they obviously acquired healthy portions of Alitalia, and they left the debt of the airline for the Italian taxpayer to pay off. So immediately you're sort of looking at it and you're like, really? Like, you're going to make the taxpayer kind of pay off your national airline?
I think Italy were rife with it, weren't it? I mean, not going too far into Italian politics because I'm not clued up by any shape.
No, absolutely not.
But I think there was a lot of corruption back then in the Italian, in the Italian government, and I think this just goes to show, really, doesn't it? And I think if you've got that kind of corruption going on, then the people who are left to bail this company out have just got no faith in it anymore, have they? They just like the heart's been tore out of it, hasn't it? Really, with things like that going on.
That's right. And obviously, moving away, like I said, we are not clued up whatsoever on Italian politics, but we know obviously a lot of people know about the likes of Silvio Berlusconi and what he was like as sort of being in charge of not just Italy, but obviously trying to run this airline that he may as well just turn around and go, right, well, we've got the good parts of it. The rest of you, if you want to fly this, you're going to have to pay it off yourselves. So it left the taxpayers paying a lot of money, and I mean a lot of money. So can you imagine that in this country? like if Boris Johnson or something like that, they sort of acquired stakes in like a flailing airline. Let's just say British Airways was going down that route, and they purchased things like that. And then all of a sudden, Boris is like, well, basically, just to let you know, we are, we are. It's not a laughing matter. But imagine him saying like, so basically, we're going to take the good parts, but we need you to pay off the rest, whilst we've hiked everything else up. If you don't want to do that, talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they'd be rioting, wouldn't they?
Could you imagine the uproar that would cause?
Oh,
So
yeah,
God knows
yeah.
what the Italian people must have felt when they, had to try and bail out their own national airline.
What are you doing?
We'll talk about Spanish Airlines next week, Steve.
Yeah. I was thinking more French, but all right. See, at least someone appreciates my Boris impression. It's not great, but it'll do. I'll take it. But no, so obviously, like I said, this didn't last long. In 2014, Etihad Airways, obviously, they don't just started up themselves. They decided then to sort of start up and they've only been recently on the scene and decided to take over some stakes of Alitalia. I think Steve is frozen, so we'll take him out for the time being.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ian, it is it was a bit of a change for Alitalia, who then obviously changed their name once again in 2014, obviously to be sort of taken over slightly by Etihad Airways.
Yeah, and I think it's what they had to do. I think they had to sort of had to hit the reset button, didn't they? And pretty much start again from scratch, haven't they? Because people don't trust the airline anymore, do they? People don't trust the people who are running the airline and what have you. And people are scared of investing into something like that because they've seen how it fails. And I think what they've had to do is had to do a hard reset and start again from scratch, which is a massive shame. And it's not their fault, it's been the people who have been running the business through pure greed what have brought the airline down and had to make it do things like that again. And it's been such a shame for it because it's been a massive player in the aviation industry so long, and for something like that to happen to it through just pure greed, really, it's been a massive shame.
Yeah, I mean, the takeover of Etihad caused Alitalia's budget subsidiary Air One to cease operations. So obviously Etihad did away with the Berlusconi way of doing things, which was to to focus all of the short haul / leisure routes onto one airline, and then focus on trying to get the money in for the other airline because it's more lucrative. So the Berlusconi way of doing things was pushed to one side. Etihad said no thanks, we're not having this, and obviously killed off Air One. So 2015, the Compagnie Aerea Italiana group passed on its operations to what would become Alitalia Società Aerea Italia. Which was a new entity owned by Etihad Airways, and the former stakeholders of Italian. I'm getting my words mixed up on my notes. Alitalia Compagnie Aerea Italiani. Of course, this operation with Etihad meant a lot of changes. So, for example, the partnership that they had with Air France KLM ended in 2017. Saying that there was no longer enough advantages from the group, so they ultimately pulled out. So a lot of change at this point for an airline that is basically known for its changes at this stage.
Yeah, absolutely. I think partially by being run by a Middle Eastern, an Arabian airline, is that the people who are actually running Etihad haven't really got any what's the word I'm looking for? Compassionate connection with Alitalia or with the country itself, and they're running it solely as it's got to be a profitable business Otherwise, it's not going to work. And I think that's the road they were going down. And I think Etihad had to make some really, really harsh decisions, and decisions what not a lot of people liked, just to make it a profitable company again, and for people to gain trust again, because they've still got this trust, but they still need to build up as well. So, yeah.
Steve is totally kicked out.
All right.
Steve is totally kicked out of the stream. So I think you and I are going to probably end up finishing this one.
No problem.
Tonight,
but
that's
absolutely
fine.
Yeah.
Also, at the same time, Grey Blue says, "Great show, guys," with a nice cup of coffee. So,
all right, happy days.
Yeah, thank you very much. You want to check that, didn't you?
No, I'm looking over to where my coffee cup was.
Oh, you ain't got one, no?
No, I've got my glass of pop instead. I'll have to have that.
Dreadful, absolutely dreadful. But no, that's absolutely fine. So we'll crack on as we were. So this new entity sort of allowed. It was almost like it became a standalone airline, didn't it? And after this sort of termination of the Air France KLM group partnership, and of course Etihad taking over and sort of doing away with its Air One subsidiary, and of course this also led to cancellations of routes from Pisa, which was also like another sort of like a mini hub, I think, for Alitalia, which included the likes of the flights to Moscow, Prague, Berlin, Catania, and Tirana.
Yeah.
But they obviously decided to continue flying to the likes of Olbia, which is quite a popular destination for not just Italians but holidaymakers at the same time, and of course into the main hub of Rome. So obviously, like I say, from 2014 to sort of 2016, there was a lot of shake-up, and I think that ultimately harmed the airline more than it did good, didn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think losing those routes, I think what they've tried to do really, it's pretty much, I think it's desperation tactics, isn't it? They took a look at it and think it's just absolutely hemorrhaging money like there's no tomorrow. So we have to cut all these non-profitable routes and just concentrate on the stuff what's actually going to, bring this airline back out, from the doldrums and raise it from the ash sheets. And I think at this point, I think they're fighting a losing battle, because it's rapidly going downhill, isn't it? At this point.
Yeah. So no matter what they tried, the business model was completely out of sorts. There was no sort of straightforward thinking for this. This was very sort of like wildly aiming and shooting to try and make something work. So 2017 came around, and Alitalia employees rejected job cuts proposals aimed at reducing costs. The airline announced that it would start going through a bankruptcy process, beginning with the appointment of an administrator. The Italian government permitted Alitalia to file for bankruptcy in May 2017. And the government then decided to actually nationalize the airline as well, which the next bit that we kind of sort of looked at was a bit sort of, I looked at the sentence and I was a bit like, imagine how weird it is saying that, because once the airline was nationalized and then put up for sale, the likes of, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, EasyJet and Ryanair wanted to purchase this airline.
Yeah. I think that's just a sign of the times, isn't it? Nobody wanted it, did they? People just didn't want it. And I think as much as EasyJet and Ryanair wanted the airline, I think they more wanted the slots. I think that's more like it. I just think they wanted the airport slots more than the actual aircraft and itself. I think it was just to make their business bigger. I mean, the holiday the holiday business going to Italy is absolutely huge. Unfortunately, the holiday industry in Italy, I wouldn't imagine is as big. So I think there's a lot more people coming into Italy than what there would be coming out of Italy on holiday. And I think that's why people like EasyJet and Ryanair showed an interest in it, just purely just for the numbers they would have got to ship people into Italy in these little hubs.
Definitely. It's a strange one to have. I mean, considering the likes of Ryanair and EasyJet, considering how huge they are at this point. and this is only nearly 5 years ago now. To be acquiring an airline like Alitalia, or to be wanting to acquire an airline of the stature of Alitalia. Of course, it didn't formalize with Ryanair because obviously all those. Do you remember all those flight cancellations they had back then?
Yeah, they had a lot of pilot trouble, didn't they?
So all the flight cancellations so basically stopped Ryanair from purchasing it, which I think would have been interesting to see what they would have done with it actually.
Well,
so that basically stopped Ryanair from doing anything in terms of wanting to do it. But EasyJet weren't just the only airline to want to purchase Alitalia. The likes of Delta Airlines, of course, like we said, EasyJet, but China Eastern also wanted to take a bit of Alitalia and sort of give it a rescue plan of up to about 100 million euros in exchange for a 10% stake in the airline. So lots of airlines were drawing up opportunities to potentially take over Alitalia and try and find an actual business model for it.
I think it would have worked as well. I mean, the likes of Ryanair and EasyJet couldn't have taken over what was a national airline. Imagine if EasyJet took over British Airways, for instance. That they've got absolutely no interest in transcontinental flights, flying to Far East or even as far as Dubai and places like that. They're just a local, low cost European airline, and I think that's their business model. It works very well for them, and I think that's how it will stay with them. To be quite honest, I can't see them venturing very far. To be quite honest,
no, definitely not. I mean, like I said, I would have been completely fascinated to see what Ryanair would have done with it, but I also dread at the same time.
They would have absolutely stripped it bare, wouldn't they?
Yeah, considering they run an airline that's full of Boeing 737s, they probably would have got rid of all those different aircraft, I should say, and just completely do away with them. What they would, I'm fascinated. I'm fascinated to know what they would have done with it. EasyJet probably would have, like I say, just localized everything, and maybe transferred some of the Airbuses over to the airline and got rid of the older aircraft and things like that. Delta probably would have just invested money into them. Same with Delta probably would have pumped money into them, and same with China Eastern, I think, just to kind of keep them afloat. It's like keeping something on life support that you think is probably not worth doing.
That's going to be the problem, isn't it? With it, it's failed. It's failed enough now that it's a sinking ship, isn't it? You're not going to pump that kind of money into it.
No,
not without a return on it anyway. Especially with how tight airline budgets are now. Profit margins and things like that on airlines are anyway, because they do make a lot of money, but they don't make a lot of money per person per flight, I would imagine.
Yes. So, So the sort of the last 5 years of the 2010s was very messy for Alitalia, and obviously the start of 2020 didn't get any better for them because obviously, as we know, the world entered a pandemic. But in March of 2020, the Italian government again took full control of the airline after talks with a number of Italian and international companies failed to agree terms. So the government then turned around and went, well, if no one else wants it, we'll have it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So that's so that was that. And then they also said, or the government sort of announced in a month later that it would take over Alitalia in May. So not only did it take full control in March, but in May they completely took it over and said that it wouldn't be able to survive the impact of the pandemic on its own. So that was more of a cry for help to sort of merge with Alitalia to kind of keep them afloat.
Yeah.
The fleet was planned to be reduced at this time as well. At the point of 2020, they had 113 aircraft and they wanted to kind of reduce it down to more than 90. The airline also questioned if it should remain in the SkyTeam Alliance, which is a bit of a shock considering it was one of the sort of her founding members back in 2001.
Yeah, and I think what they tried to do was just put a sticking plaster on it. I think if you've got an airline what's got like the amount of aircraft what they had, and take 50 aircraft out of that airline, then you're only going one way, and that's downhill, aren't you? You're not pulling back from that, to be quite honest. I think it's been the slippery slope, and I think, like you say, the Italian government have put a sticking plaster on and bandaged it up the best they can, but without private investment, it's never going to be a good airline again, is it? It's never going to be the likes of what it was back in 70s, 80s, or what have you. So
yeah.
So
we've got Steve
Hey!
Aldridge back with us. Would you like to explain this comment?
Well, there is a second part. Yeah. Well, you got beautiful countryside, great cider, good pasties. You've still got the hamster at the exchange running your internet connect. Absolutely shocking.
And when are you going home back to Dorset?
Oh, but well, I don't want to break the news to you, but it's 2021 back home. You're still
there's an insult ever I've heard one.
That's it. I think your visa expires at midnight tonight, Steve.
It does. I know how to pay extra for this Wi-Fi connection. I heard later on. Absolutely dreadful.
That is fast Wi-Fi for Cornwall.
Oh,
you've unveiled where you were at the start of the show, so there'll be people coming for you.
Oh, that's fine. Come down with your pitchforks and
Wi-Fi now.
I'll take them all on.
Don't you be mocking our Wi-Fi. We can't get the apps running a bit quicker. You know what I mean?
They'll all be off to the national welly boot throwing competition or whatever it is you do down this part.
Just keep insulting them. Just keep going.
Yeah, that's it. Bloody hell, Steve. They're going to be queuing up outside that Premier Inn on Bude Seafront, aren't they, for you?
Yes,
on the Strand if you fancy coming. I'll even give you my room number. Bring it
on. That's the Premier Inn in Bude. But no. So yeah, 2020 was a bad sort of. Things were getting a lot worse for the airline. Of course, to question whether to stay in SkyTeam, it makes you wonder if SkyTeam maybe should have done something to help out, or is it a case of they just didn't want anything to do with it, and it left Alitalia with that decision to decide whether to stay in it or not.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, that, to be quite honest. I don't think I don't know whether it's in like the terms and conditions of SkyTeam that if your airline's failing, will bail you out. I don't think it will be, will it? So, and I think it was more of a choice of Alitalia or the incarnation that I think the best thing for them to do is to pull out of the SkyTeam alliance, because it's just an extra cost, isn't it? Because I'm sure being a member of something like that doesn't come cheap to an airline, does it?
Well, you think back to the episode where we spoke about the airlines that are no longer with us. A lot of those were in alliances, and those got the bailout from their members. So, from that point of view, you almost wonder what the benefits of being there is. People aren't going to sort of get you over the line if the times are hard.
Yeah, it's. I don't know what the decision was in the end, whether they are still part of it or not.
No, I think they've actually left.
They actually did leave.
Yeah, they actually left. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah,
I had it in front of me somewhere about that, but it's.
Yeah. Oh, they did. Yeah, they did. May 2020 is when they left. Yeah, May 2020, Alitalia left the SkyTeam alliance, and going back before that, US Aerospace Partners, which was headed by Michelle Roosevelt Edwards, who is a businesswoman and a Republican political candidate, so more politics, announced that they were still interested in purchasing the airline, and the company had offered to purchase it earlier in the year. And she said that the airline would fly 150 planes within 5 years, with a mix of Airbus, Boeing, and Embraers. It was looking up for well, I suppose it's almost like that shot of like confidence to say, oh, okay, well, actually, someone actually wants our airline, and of course that didn't happen. That didn't happen. So since from there on in, obviously, like we said, they left the SkyTeam alliance. And in June of 2020, Italian Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte announced that Francesco Ciao would be named the chairman, and Fabrizio Lazzarini would be named the CEO of what would be the new Alitalia.
Yeah.
And of course, this project venture did not come about because, as we know, August of this year, Alitalia announced that it's ending all ticket sales on their website and announced the customers who purchase tickets for flights after the 15th of October will be refunded. So kind of the final nail really for Alitalia was the fact that they wanted to create a new Alitalia, and nothing came from it, and ultimately they decided, right, we're now going to start to pull the plug on it.
That's right. I think at the end of the day, it's been a political decision, hasn't it? It's all been about politics, hasn't it? And at the end of the day, you can't. I think as a government, you can't pump that amount of money into a failing business because it's just unpopular. People aren't going to. I'm going to have a coughing fit. Excuse me. Excuse me. Yeah.
But interestingly, sorry, go on then.
No, sorry, I'll let you take over. I need a drink.
No, I was going to say, interestingly, the new company ITA have actually bought a A330 off Alitalia and actually done their certificate their
Go on.
get their certification flight.
Certification.
Airworthy certificate.
Well, that would do. One of those.
We'll go over that. Airworthy operational certificate. Yeah.
They got their license.
Yeah, they got their license basically. Yes. So as we all know, we've covered it through the past few weeks of the news. Alitalia is to be replaced by ITA, which is Italia Trasporto Aereo, which will be the planned state-owned flag carrier of Italy, scheduled to commence operations just one day after Alitalia go out of business. And it's going to be fully owned by the government via their Ministry of Economy and Finance. And the airline is planned to take over many of the assets of current Italian flag carrier Alitalia. So, let's just quickly talk about the new brand of Alitalia, which is ITA. Obviously, we spoke last week. I think it was in the news about their order for new aircraft. Of course, for anyone that might have missed it, they ordered the A220, A320 Neos, and A330 Neos for their operations. How do we see this going? Do you think this is going to be a bit better? Do you think they've actually got their sort of business model in check? And do they sort of have an idea for what they're going to be doing?
Well, nobody likes to see anyone fail unless it's Southampton Football Club, then they can fail all they want. But
you're on fire this evening, just insulting everybody.
Well, I haven't got round to you yet. Give it a time. No. They've really got to, I think, crack the American market, because New York, Boston, that east coast of America is absolutely full of sort of Italian descendants. If they can crack that market, then it could well hold them in good stead, and perhaps leave sort of the Far East alone and just concentrate on Europe and where there's a large Italian population and stick to that. And it could all be a success if they do that, I'd say.
Absolutely. Boring you, are we, Ian?
No, sorry. I've had this cold for about a week now, and sometimes I'll wake up early morning with coughing fits and stuff, so I just get a bit tired this time of evening at the moment.
Fantastic.
And I've been testing them all right.
I would like to think that they've got their sort of business model in place for what's to come from this airline. As we know, they've also obviously you said, Steve, that they've got an A330 from Alitalia. They've actually taken one of the A320s as well for air operator certificate purposes. as well.
Mm.
So there's no. I mean, we had a look at it before, and we had a look at the livery to see if it's possible that could be what the livery is going to be. But I don't quite know if it is or not. Go check out some of the previous episodes if you want to have a look at that. But doing a little bit of research on the new formed airline for Italy, we've now got some information as to what kind of routes they're going to be sort of planning to do. So, excuse me. So they've also apparently, I mean, I don't think we mentioned this actually during the news last week, but they, as well as a 320 Neo, they've actually ordered 9 of the A321 Neos as well, which will be quite sort of huge for them because they are very popular at the moment, especially the XLRs and LRs and everything else like that. Obviously, JetBlue flying theirs across the pond and that to the UK from America, but. So they're looking at operating a fleet of 7 wide-body aircraft and 45 narrow-body aircraft at the beginning of operations. It's planned that the fleet will be expanded to 78 by the beginning of next year. So what they'll order in terms of that, whether they'll add more options or whether it just be a case of taking some assets from Alitalia and just using those to begin with, it sort of remains to be seen. 10 regional aircraft will be sort of in the fleet as well, such as the A220. That's what they say, but it is obviously 22 that's on order. And they're also looking at, of course, the 350 as well. So the A321 supposedly would be used for routes including the likes of Africa, so Dakar in Senegal, Accra, which is the capital of Ghana, and Lagos, which of course is Nigeria, as well as the Middle East, which is Jeddah and Riyadh, which are in Saudi Arabia, and of course Kuwait City as well. Both or most, especially sort of the Saudi Arabian ones, most destinations that Alitalia didn't actually go to.
Yeah, I don't know. They seem odd. I can't see them being particularly popular, those routes. They don't stand out to me as sort of must-go-to route to them. Like I said, they just stuck to where there's mass Italian population, and then once they've kind of settled their business, when it's working for them, then they can go to these sort of more exotic places. But no, it just seems like they could be making the same mistakes over again.
There's no other route news from them yet. I imagine, of course, the likes of, like New York, maybe used New Jersey, possibly, maybe, but it's just mainly New York. But yeah, so it's one to keep an eye on in terms of what they do. But they do have their logo, which is sort of popped up, and it's very different. It's very different. It's just ITA, but the A is in the Italian flag colours. So, I mean, we've not really had sort of a say from you, Ian, about whether you think they might be successful or whether this is just another try one more thing and see what happens.
Well, I think they've changed the business model, haven't they? I mean, for a start off, what you were saying about the equipment they're going to be using, they tend to be going down an Airbus route, don't they? Rather than Airbus, Boeing, McDonnell Douglas, whatever, Embraer, all rather than getting a mixed bag, they're going down one route. And in regards to that, I think you can see him taking what people like EasyJet and Ryanair are doing, where they just have they're the same kind of setup, aren't it? It's just airlines from planes from one manufacturer, and I'm sure obviously the bigger your order, the better your discount and things like that. So they were going to be getting them at the right price as well. As regards to the routes, I mean, I was thinking about when you were saying about your Africas and your Saudi Arabias and places like that. I mean, I live in northwest of England, and we get Ethiopian Airlines, and we get Etihad, and we get Pakistan, well, not Pakistan Airlines, but whoever who's flying for Pakistan Airlines, and we're getting all these, these hot countries, if you want to call them that, flying into northwest of England, and I think it goes to show probably how the planet's become a smaller place, and there is a market for Middle Eastern routes and things like that, rather than Etihad and Emirates getting all the lion's share of the business. It's they can send somebody else in and obviously fly them back to Italy and things like that. I agree with what Steve was saying though about doing the east coast of America. And from what you were saying there, I think from Italy, you would need a 350, wouldn't you, to do it?
330 could probably do it. 330 Neo it probably will do it at some point. And if they do look at the 350 as well, because you can't really see them going down the Boeing route and get the Dreamliner unless they're absolutely happy with what they've got and they want to expand. But unless they stick to Airbus and then go for like a 350-1000 or something just for extra capacity.
Yeah, but then you're getting planes like that, and then you're limiting yourselves down to what we were saying before about it being geographically challenging country. So you're looking at a couple of main hubs, and that's probably it. So you're still going to get these people who are living in the heel of Italy having to take a regional flight to get a bigger plane to get to a further destination sort of thing. So I think they've certainly got the work cut out for them, but they're obviously cleverer than us, and they obviously can see that there's a market there, isn't there? And the potentially the airline could work if it's constructed correctly, because it's worked in the past. So there's no reason why it can't work again.
Definitely.
What about you, Tom? How long do you see it going, or how do you see it going from?
Like I said, I want to see it succeed. I think it's about time that there's an Italian airline that works. Think back to last year, or maybe like the year before that. You had Air Italy that were taken from Qatar. Qatar had a say in this, and they formed Air Italy out of the ashes of the old Air Italy. And they operated obviously the 330, and they bought 737 Maxes and things like that. Didn't work, and now they're not around anymore. I would hope it doesn't go down the same route. I think that the pandemic probably had a bit of a say in Air Italy's sort of departure, but I would hope that it would be successful, and I would hope that they would take the history of Alitalia and sort of claim it as their own, because to kind of replace an airline that, like I said, is iconic. It's an iconic airline, regardless of what history it's had and everything else. I would like to think that the history won't be forgotten. And obviously it won't be. There'll be museums around, Italy, and that will have Alitalia planes and gear and things like that. But it's an airline name that will be synonymous with Italy, and it will be one that will be sort of remembered by not just Italians, but it'll be remembered by us for a very long time, despite the fact that they're obviously not going to be flying around. It's going to be very weird, because obviously I've grown up with knowing that Alitalia have been around for a long time and everything else. So it will be very weird not to see them in the skies. But, you can only wish nothing but good things for ITA when they do
Excuse me.
on the 15th of October. It's going to be interesting as well to see how they do it, because are they going to take, because they've got new planes on order, I would imagine they would take the Alitalia aircraft for the time being, and then slowly start to phase them out, because some of the Alitalia planes are not young either, so they're quite old. So especially to commence operations that soon, like, you need aircraft. So whether they've just got one or two routes to kind of go on to begin with, or whether they take the assets of, get their crew trained on the A320s, the A330s, because then when they go onto the 330 Neos or the 320 Neos, they're already familiar with it. So,
do you think on Saturday, flying into Heathrow, we'll still see Alitalia aircraft because they wouldn't have had a chance to change them over yet, where they bought the asset.
It's a bit like with Air Berlin. Air Berlin had their livery around for a long time, even after their sort of their bankruptcy, and I would probably say that the delivery will be around, but I imagine the titles would be taken out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they would have to do that, wouldn't they?
They'd have to take the titles out, put maybe ITA on them to be like put the ITA logo on them, and just keep it flying for a long time until obviously these new aircraft start to roll in. They are supposed to start coming in from next year, so I imagine just to see out the year, they'll do the assets of Alitalia to begin with, and then once the new year hits and they start bringing the new aircraft in, like the 220s, the 320 Neos, etc., that's when we'll start to see ITA take its own sort of identity and sort of move away from the Alitalia sort of way of doing things. But yeah, let's just sort of to wrap things up. We're just going to quickly dive into what they used to fly, what they would have used to fly, and a bit more of their turnover as well, which obviously ultimately led to the end of the airline. So we'll have a quick look at the sort of financial turnover. Ian, you've got some stats there. Do you want to?
I had some stats there. My stats have just disappeared because I was actually looking at the livery of the ITA livery. Am I right in saying it's like a green, white, and red stripe running down outside with it going onto the tail?
What, the Alitalia livery?
Oh, the new one.
Don't know. I don't think we've seen an official post for it, have we?
No, there's been a few rumours, hasn't there?
Yeah, it's probably it was just something I was.
But I think we agree it's going to end up being.
Googled it.
It'll end up being a Euro white, won't it? Like the TAP, but ITA, I'd imagine.
Yeah. The rumours going round are that it could look very much like Alitalia, just not so bold on the tail. Just it's almost like a skinny. So down the leading edge of the tail will be sort of green, and then sort of the straightness will be red, and obviously be flipped on the other side, and it's just going to be ITA at the front, like big bold titles. There's no official pictures to give us a livery. I don't think we'll probably see it until the first aircraft is painted in it, which will probably be one of the new ones, because there ain't no point painting a 320 currently in the new livery if you're going to get rid of them sort of months after. So I think we're going to have to wait till next year before we start getting official confirmation, unless they decide to release it soon and then we know what to expect.
Yeah, no, I think that would be right, wouldn't it? They won't.
I imagine it would go down the same route as what American did. Nobody knew what the American new livery was going to be like. That was going to go on their 777-300s that they were getting, until you caught a glimpse of what it looked like, and then obviously the chrome was removed and everybody went doolally over it because it was like taking away the American identity. And actually, now that it's been in service for a long time, it is quite nice. So. It's still American and everything else like that. But I think the way that they'll present it will be very much like American. So they'll keep it very much under wraps until they're ready to present it themselves once they know their first aircraft's been built.
Yeah, no, it makes sense, doesn't it? And do a big old grand announcement for it.
Yeah. So over to you, Ian, if you want to give us a little.
Well, yeah, I mean, in their entire history of Alitalia, right from its inception back in when we're in 1947. There's only been 1 year, and that was back in the 1980s, where it's actually turned over a profit, which I find quite interesting. From what I can understand, it's from 1947 right up to 2020. It's been running at a loss.
Frightening, isn't it? Frightening to think
it really is.
Yeah, it's frightening to think about that.
Yeah, it really is. And I've got a few statistics if I press right button. So. Yeah, I mean, it's just from 2015 up to 2018, really, that the turnover has been, in 2015, 3,312 million euros, but that's with a net loss of 199 million.
Oof.
So, and that's carrying 22 million passengers with a potential to carry 76 million passengers. So it goes to show that at that point as well, it was just, it's 50, 52, 54 million passengers or whatever shy of where they need to be. And that's a hell of a lot. It's a massive hit to take. And that's running 141 aircraft as well. So there were a lot of empty seats that year, weren't there? And it went downhill from there, really.
It did, yeah. Despite the fact that their turnover sort of it took a massive hit 2016, it did start to increase onwards, but they were still posting losses of 360 million euros, and it then got worse for 496 million in 2017. Yeah. Got a bit better in 2018, but once you're in that much debt, I mean, again, seeing as Steve done it, excuse me. Steve done it earlier, talking about the football side of things. Look at Barcelona. that's the only way to kind of compare it is look at Barcelona. They're in. Once you enter that much debt, it then becomes an issue. So, yeah, it's frightening to know that in the entire existence of Alitalia, not only 1 year did they operate that was profitable.
Yeah. It's a surprise they blasted as well as they have, really, isn't it? Like when you hear those stats, the fact they made it to this point when they never turned a profit, with the exception of 1 year, is quite incredible, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, it is. But when you look back from 19, I won't say late 1970s, perhaps into early 80s, when they started to expand and start going into like travel agencies and things like that, and trying to become something that they really wasn't. From then, they've always had the begging ball out from pretty much from 1980s right up to to this latest inception that they've been asking for money for bailouts pretty much all the time, and I think people have just had to, these investment companies and governments and these Arabian Airlines have just said enough's enough sort of thing. We just can't keep plowing money into such a massive. I mean, we are working out how many millions and millions of euros they've lost since 1980s. I would guess it's running into billions that they've actually lost.
Like Thomas said earlier on, and the taxpayers have to bear the brunt of some of that as well, which
Absolutely.
is ridiculous, really.
It's crazy to think about. I'll just quickly bring up the comment that I just showed up there. Aviation 19 says that at the minute, the two current planes still have the Alitalia livery, but they have a small little sticker on the boarding door or next to the boarding door that says ITA. So I imagine, judging by that, that's how they're going to operate them. Is with a little sticker on the just by the boarding door to say that it's operated.
I think they'll keep the livery. I mean, I'm just thinking back to your Monarch Cook. You remember that plane, the Thomas Cook Monarch plane, and they had an Aeroflot as well. That were another one, weren't it? So all they have to do is rip the decals off, don't they? Rip the name off, and like you say, stick a little sticker on saying ITA, and job's done, really, isn't it?
Yeah, like I said, it's the same situation with like Air Berlin, the likes of I think Eurowings are operating a lot of flights with Dash 8s, and they introduced the 737-800. But some of the 737-800s and the Dash 8s were still in Air Berlin livery years after they left the skies. So there is an opportunity there for a potential hybrid. I don't see them like getting rid of the livery completely. I think they'll just have a sticker to say it's been operated by ITA instead of maybe even putting the logo on. I think they'll just have a little sticker to say this is what we're going to be doing, and we're going to have a little sticker to say operated by ITA.
I think they probably will do, and I think that's just going to be a cost saving exercise, isn't it? Until they get the feet on the carpet sort of thing and get up and running properly. And I think it's a wise move, isn't it? And I don't think anybody's going to be too bothered, are they?
No.
Yeah, there's no point smashing loads of money on the little infrastructure when they need to pay for like the big stuff to get it quite literally off the ground.
Absolutely,
that's it. Yeah, that's it. So as of last month, September 2011, the current Alitalia fleet consists of 19 A319s, 38 A320s, 5 A321-100s, which is the original version, or not the upgraded 200 version, 10 A330-200s, and 6 777-200s. Of course, they had a 777-300, but that's now currently stored in Shannon in Ireland. So it is now. So, so the 777s will go 100%. From what I can see, they'll definitely go because they're sort of getting sent to storage. Some of them have been converted for cargo already. The A330s will probably stay. The A321-100s will go because they're going to be really old. 320s may stay for a while, and maybe the 319s as well, just for a little bit, in order to sort of fulfill any demand that there might be going from October 15th onwards. If we look at sort of the past history of what they've flown, and some of the aircraft that you're going to see or going to hear is a real variety of planes. So, for example, we mentioned the Fiat G12, which was the first aircraft that they operated. They've gone on to operate the likes of the Savoia Marchetti SM25, which is what we mentioned as well earlier on. That was retired in 1951. They went on to then operate the likes of the A300, of which the first was operated in 1980 and then fully retired in 1998. They even operated the Avro Lancastrian, which is the passenger version of the Lancaster.
1947. It was like their second ever aircraft.
That's it. I think that's the one, Tom, you were talking about before when you were saying it flew down to Buenos Aires. That was it. It was the Lancastrian, not the what was the other one, SM22 or something. You said.
Operating for 4 years, retired in 1951. Then it went on to operate the likes of the Boeing 727-200, which was introduced in 1977, the Boeing 737-200 Combi, it was introduced in 1992, 747-100s and 200s, which were operated in 1970 and 1971, 767s, which were retired in 2012. That's the 777-300, which lasted 4 years, or retired this year. Convair CV240s and CV340s and the Convair 440s operated until 1956 and 1960 for those. Of course, the trusty, reliable DC3, DC4, DC6, DC7, DC8, DC9s, MD11s, DC10s, MD82s, the Sud Aviation Caravelle, and the Vickers Viscount. I was going to say Viscount then. It's the Viscount. So, yeah, it's...
They've had pretty much one of everything, haven't they?
Oh, do you know what? There's still so many more. There's still so many more they've operated.
But that's part of their problem, isn't it? They overbought aircraft, and like Ian said, I think before I sort of lost the connection, they've never been able to actually fill the amount of aircraft they've got. So they're sort of wasting money constantly on upkeep and not being able to fill these aircraft, and they've just gone spend crazy for the sake of it.
That's it. There is obviously you've got the regional airline as well, which operated ATRs and CRJs and Dornier 328s and things like that. So there's a big range of aircraft that they've operated. Multiple special liveries have been applied to their planes, such as, of course, the SkyTeam livery. There was an Alitalia.com livery, lots of different SkyTeams. There was the retro one, the retro plane, which wore the livery of Alitalia's predecessor, which was the Linee Aerei Italiani group. The plane is now scrapped, unfortunately, so it no longer exists. They decided to get rid of it and scrap it. Trying to think if there is any more on there. Yeah, there's loads of like I say, there's I think they had an Expo livery on a A330, and then they had a Jeep Renegade livery, which was quite common into Heathrow, I believe, which is now wearing its original livery back in 2014. So, yeah, it's going to be sad to see them go. I think in terms of sort of the history of the aviation industry that they play a massive part in. But we wish ITA the biggest amount of success possible. Hopefully, they can get it right this time,
Definitely.
and sort of give back to the Italian people who've basically been wronged by the likes of Silvio Berlusconi by having to pay off the airline's debts themselves, and toing and froing and not knowing what's going to be happening with the airline. And of course, now in 4 days' time, it's going to be no longer with us. So, Aviation 19 again, giving us some more information saying that you think Alitalia said that ITA will fly the A319, but they'll be retired shortly after.
Yeah, they do look like they're getting on, don't they? I don't know if you've seen them today. The one I posted on my Instagram, it doesn't look like a new aircraft. I haven't actually reg checked it, but it's certainly not within the last couple of years. That one,
No.
looking at it,
They are quite old themselves. I think one of the first operators of the plane in in Europe. So definitely worth sort of giving that a reg check just to kind of have a look and see if it's any good. If you have enjoyed this evening's show, please do leave a like on the stream. We'd be massively appreciated as well. And of course, if you're new around here, please do consider subscribing. We are on the final stretch to 1,000 subscribers, and we will kind of want to get there as soon as we can, but we can't do that unless you subscribe to us. So please make sure that you do that. And again, it'd be massively, massively appreciated. But yeah, we're gonna sort of begin to wrap this evening's show up. It's been very educational, very somber at the same time.
Yeah.
But we've learned a lot about Alitalia's history by doing a lot of research, haven't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Like all of these sort of discussions, we don't just throw it together. You do have to do a bit of homework, and you don't have to learn a lot through the histories and going through the internet and what have you. So it's always interesting. But obviously, this week's a sad week because we're talking about something that won't be with us for too much longer.
I mean, last week we mentioned about a couple of chaps who basically their project isn't around anymore, and now we're talking about Alitalia. So
it's all doom and gloom, isn't it?
It is doom and gloom.
Which one are you going to miss more?
Alitalia.
Yeah, it's. Yeah, I mean, to say that you spend all this time researching it and you've got all the information in front of you and things like that, you're still only skimming over the top of it. To be fair, aren't you? And you know there is so much. There is so much you can learn and so much. I mean, you could make one of these podcasts last for 2 or 3 hours, couldn't you? Talking about such things like that.
Oh, massively. Massively. Yeah, massively. There is so much like history into it. Like it's well worth a read up because what we tend to do, we spend the week researching. We write notes down, and that's what you've seen me clicking onto is me making my notes and things like that. And it's frightening just how much you have to kind of pay attention to, and it is when you think you know enough, and then something new comes to you. It's always a good sort of nice little every day's a school day kind of realization.
Yeah, and that goes in my little blue book. My my notes and that we don't we don't just wing it. Like we have a knowledge, but we don't have an encyclopedic knowledge. So we certainly have to do our prep to sort of bring you the best show that we can. What have you?
We know enough, so we know enough to not talk crap for an hour every week, or just over an hour every week. So, but it is it's good fun. I enjoy this, and I know you guys enjoy this as well. And hopefully everybody watching enjoys this as well. Like I said, please leave a thumbs up if you are enjoying this stream. We've got a couple of things to get through before we start to wrap this evening's show up, I will bring this comment up here from Aviation 19, who says that the Air Berlin livery lasted a long time, like with Lauda Motion and other airlines, but the second to last flight from Tegel Airport was in a former Air Berlin A320 in half of the livery. So, like I said to you, he's gone.
I didn't know Mario was sitting behind him.
Do you know what? I didn't either. I'm glad you point out because I didn't see that.
Here comes Luigi.
Here he is. Go on, Mario.
I've just been to top my drink up. Sorry about that.
You've been totally waiting to do that all evening.
I just couldn't find the right opportunity to stand up and get myself a drink.
Let us know.
I couldn't do it in the middle of that podcast. It wouldn't have been appropriate. So.
No. Fantastic. Brilliant. So like I said, we have a few things that we're going to go over before we sort of begin to wrap the evening up. So during the week, if you have been following us on our social media platforms, which I will bring up on the screen so that if you aren't, you can. We've been running a little bit of a competition in terms of showing us your best Alitalia drawings, photos, etc., and everything else. And we've sort of, pardon the pun because it is my last name, we've whittled it down to just a single one. And we said that it would award a prize for the winner of the contest, which you get a free bit of merch. Why not? You get a free bit of merch for winning. Merch of your choice, of course. We will send it to you for free. And of course, the winner for this evening is undoubtedly this wonderfully epic. I'm going to just change us because I can't see Steve's head apart from his forehead. There we go.
Hang on.
Is this wonderful drawing sent to us by former guest and friend of the show, Marco Barrett. He is exceptionally talented when it comes to drawing aircraft. If you haven't seen our show where we had him on, it is episode number...
One of the early ones, weren't it?
5, I think it is, or something. We've done so many. I will just confirm this because I don't want to sort of give you the wrong show to go to. It was indeed. It was episode 5. So I was correct. Episode 5 is the episode to go on to. If you want to see more of his drawings, you can go and have a look. It's done digitally, so it's not on pen and paper. It's done through iPad, and it is done freehand. So there's no tracing, there's no nothing. It's all done through freehand, and he is exceptionally good. Exceptionally good.
Absolutely quality.
Yeah, I've seen some of his stuff before. They are really, really good.
Yeah.
I thought that picture I submitted might have been up.
No. Do you want a moment we can go get a tissue? Or
No, I'm all right.
All right, fair enough. So well done to you, Marco Barrett. You are going to get the free bit of merch. We will contact you probably after this show, actually. We'll contact you, see what you like, and then we'll get it sent to you as soon as we can. Aviation 19. And are you sure that is a drawing? Trust me, it's a drawing. It is a drawing. I can zoom in if you would like me to. 100%. Yeah. That is a drawing.
Yeah, it's just that because it's not a pen and paper drawing. Like you say, it's a freehand drawing done with digitally, isn't it? And
it is digitally done.
Yeah.
So 100%,
Fantastic.
it is a drawing, and it's fantastic. Absolutely epic. So big well done to you, Marco Barrett. You are getting something in the post for free from us. I don't know. It's been a long day. So well done to you. So at the same time, we will point out, because we need to do this, today is your very last can't get it, there it is. Today is your very last day to get merch at 15% off, if you so wish. We've had a lot of people buy our stuff, and we are completely humbled by the fact that the support shown is insane. So, like I say, you've got up until I think it's midnight. I want to say it's midnight, but you've got up until midnight to order your. It's this one. Order your merch from us. T-shirts. Steve ain't got it on today, but hoodies, cups, mugs, stickers, hoodies, drinking containers, everything you could ask for. And of course, we'll be putting out some new designs throughout the weeks as well as we come up with them. So 100% do go and get that before midnight this evening if you want to save yourself a pretty penny or two. Just going on to our next thing that we have here. Also, Marco Barrett says, thanks, guys. So a big well done to you for winning our little competition. So moving on to our next sort of thing that we're going to be doing, I'm going to briefly show you. Let's go into here. And yes, okay. Just setting it all up. It's all a bit all over the place. Last week, if you were watching, you will have seen that we shared a design we are going to be bringing to the shop very, very soon. And we can safely announce that straight after this show, we are going to be releasing it, which we're very excited about. The support that we've had for this design is absolutely phenomenal. We sort of looked at it last week and we were like, we like it. Ian modelled a sample shirt, and the support, the messages of oh my god, I want one, was so overwhelming that after tonight's stream, we are indeed going to be releasing this shirt. We're going to keep it on the market for probably 2 to 3 weeks. So it is going to be limited edition. So if you don't get one after 2-3 weeks, you will miss out. So we're going to bring this up onto the stream. Bring this up onto the shop straight after the stream. For those that are listening on Spotify that don't really know what we're talking about, it is a Pride T-shirt with rainbow sort of contrails and plain sort of information striking diagonally up from right to left. Have you guys ordered one? I mean, I've ordered one. Have you ordered one?
I haven't just yet.
Steve's got one. Ian's got one already, so I don't know why I asked you.
I haven't just
Steve,
yet.
You ordered one?
I haven't just yet, but I certainly will when it goes on the shop shortly.
Yeah, I've ordered one already. So, yeah, I've ordered one. I've got that coming and some other designs coming, so definitely one to keep an eye on. And yeah, if you want to buy this shirt right here, you've got 2-3 weeks. I think we'll do. What should we do it for? We'll do it for 3 weeks. So we will go until the end of the month. So 31st of October is when this shirt will no longer be available on the shop. So keep an eye on our social medias, as I say, to keep an eye on when this is coming out. So, we'll put the link up and everything else. And go get it and go show some support for not just the channel, but for the community. Okay, that wraps everything up. So, this is the part of the show. Well, firstly, thank you, everybody, for watching this evening and contributing to tonight's show. It's been a lot of fun. It's a good sort of reminder of what, how I'm trying to think how like dog eat dog the aviation industry can be in terms of airlines fighting against one another to kind of gain superiority. So, hopefully we've done a goodbye to Alitalia a little bit justice. We will miss them. And, like I said, once again, thank you everybody for watching. Like I say, go get the merch and follow us on our socials. But we're going to start to do some shout outs now. So it's part of the show where you guys can get involved as well. So if you have any shout outs for anybody that you kind of, it could be literally anybody. If you've got any shout outs, get them into the chat. We'll bring them up on the screen. But we're going to start with Steve, if you would like to do some shout outs.
Yeah, first of all, big shout out to the Cornish. I love your Wi-Fi. I love your phone reception. I'm planning on going down the pub shortly, so please don't kill me. And I'll even get you a pint to say sorry. And just that I love Cornish folk. And shout out to Ian. I'm sorry my Wi-Fi went earlier on, but it's obviously my computer's fault and nothing to do with geography. So sort of thank you for taking over the.
It's all right. Don't make a habit of it.
And finally, they say you shouldn't meet your heroes, but I know Tom met his this morning, and we had a little bit of golf.
Oh, brilliant!
So how was it?
Oh my god! Oh no, he didn't show up, so I met you instead.
Yeah, no, we had a cracking time, and it was more fun trying to hit things that we should be hitting, but there was some good shots there, so I appreciate sort of coming out today. So it was good fun. So thank you very much.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. It was definitely a lot of fun. If you just bear with me 2 seconds, I've just received. Okay, right. We're not going anywhere just yet. Save your shout outs because I need to grab something. So talk amongst yourselves whilst I grab this.
I'm intrigued.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Okay.
We saw quite a lot of aircraft today when we were down at Golf Place. There was like the transatlantic KLM stuff was going over. There was a dreadful Leary Jet 2, but fortunately it was at 40,000 feet, so I didn't have to set eyes on it properly. And it escapes me now. What was that other little jobby that was flying around quite a lot today? We picked it up on the. Yeah. We saw plenty of aircraft down there today, so it was pretty decent.
It was bad as me when I went fishing the other day, and as soon as you heard something, phone's out your pocket and you're straight onto flight radar, aren't you? Looking to see what it is.
Well, I would normally in every single time, but again, due to the geographical location of where we are, that wasn't possible.
Fair enough. Because you're giving that Wi-Fi some slating, you aren't you tonight?
You are totally going to get some
hate mail, but they'll have to post
he's
it.
Wearing an Alitalia shirt. If you're in any of the pubs in Bude, that's where you need to be. Anyway, I've had something sent to me just before we do go, and we've been talking about the new ITA, and just received a picture of the first ITA A320 to come out of the paint shop.
All right.
Oh.
So let me just get rid of that corner there and behold the wonder. There it is. That's the first one.
Dave.
It's not one of Michael Barrett's paintings, that is it?
No. So this is the first ITA A320 fresh out the paint shop that was sent to me by Marco Barrett. So thank you for that on Facebook. You can see the sticker that says just there. Operated by ITA and born in 2021. So this will be the first aircraft to sort of adorn some kind of livery.
Can you just zoom in on Reg? Let me just Google Reg, see what it throws up.
Absolutely.
Just a bit of history.
So let us know very quickly in the chat what you think of this temporary livery, I think we call it.
I can't make out what it's meant to be at the end. Is it E?
B at the end. B for Bravo.
Is it JB? That would you say?
No, E. Echo India, Bravo.
Is that what you say up there? Okay.
Aviation 19 says he does not like this livery.
Oh, it's it's an Alitalia.
It is indeed. It's probably the one that they've been using for air certificate worthiness. I think aircraft operating certificate.
White Radar 24.
So Aviation 19 does not like this livery. Keep letting me know before we will be taking us off the screen shortly, but we are breaking it to you first. This is the first ITA Alitalia's replacement aircraft that has been thrown out of the paint shop.
Yeah, leased from Ferry Toulouse, 8th of July 2010 on delivery. Was involved in an incident on September the 29th in 2013 when the right-hand landing gear did not extend on landing. It was then obviously taken out of service, returned to service in 2014 with Alitalia, and is now part of Transporto Aero, Italia Transporto Aero. It's been leased and it's painted in the Born in 21 special colours. So there's your little history lesson on that. I'm with Aviation 19 on that one, I'm afraid, guys. I'm not a fan of it at all. I were expecting something on tail. If you stick something on the tail, it's a different plane altogether.
It is very temporary. That's the thing. It's a very temporary livery. Aviation 19 saying Shannon Paint Shop. I'm going to hazard a guess and say yes. But I'm sure somebody will probably correct that or confirm it. At least they've made it bold. I guess.
Yeah.
It's the only thing I can say for it. Marco Barrett says yes, it is Shannon Airport. So yes, that is spotted currently in Ireland now. So it is.
But the problem is, it's born in 2021. To the person rocking up at Heathrow in Manchester, wherever it's going to be, what was born in 2021? It doesn't tell you whose plane it is, does it?
Only the operational sticker, but that's about it.
Yeah. So I think it's missing something.
Yeah. There you go, guys. There you go.
You need something on the tail.
Yeah, definitely.
Breaking news for you. We don't just do news here. We just do breaking news as well.
Yeah. Nice
so there
ball
you
of
go.
steaming spaghetti on tail.
Now who's the hero? Let's get that off the screen.
Yeah.
There. Right. So yes, we are going to continue to wrap this show up. So like I said, if you've got any shout outs for anybody, please put it in the chat. We'll get it onto the screen. Ian, I believe it is you now.
Just thanks to you, Tom, and thanks to you, Steve, as well for letting me be part of it every week, and it's always good fun, isn't it?
I think it's frozen.
Oh, is it frozen again? I'd like to thank my sponsor tonight, Super Mario.
Brilliant.
For popping in and saying no, and just thanks to everyone who's been listening again. Thanks to anyone who's going to listen on Spotify, and that's about it. Just thanks to everybody.
Yeah. Cheers, Steve. He's gone.
Yeah.
So I'd like to give a shout out to everybody who has liked the stream and been watching this evening. Your support is massively appreciated as always. We do try to come up with as much interesting topics as we can for you guys. And like I say, if you have any suggestions for what we could do for future shows, do let us know. Like I said, put it into any of our social medias, which I'll run through one last time at the very end. Steve's back, and he's back again because he's annoyed the Cornish, and they don't want him having Wi-Fi.
Better internet image than I do in a supposedly civilized town in Cornwall. Saying,
yeah. So, so if you've got any suggestions for future shows, do send them to us. We'll go through the social medias one last time before we close this evening. Also, I'd like to give a shout out to Ian for doing a stellar job again.
Thank you.
With the debate here. Steve, the Cornish love you, so well done.
I love the Cornish too. I just don't like their telecoms very much.
It's not that bad, really. They just don't like you. Also, like I said, so everybody watching, big shout out to you guys, and NHS frontline workers around the world, as per normal, for doing a wonderful job. We are going to be looking at maybe extending the show and possibly doing midweek shows. So we'll let you know on that one. Final time for this evening. Do get your merch before midnight this evening. It is well worth it. The quality is wonderful. So do that. Rob Brown plane spotting.
Oh, fantastic! I hope he got it.
Yeah, quick hello, guys. Busy chasing down an Indian C-17.
Yeah, it landed at Press Week, didn't it?
So hopefully, fingers crossed, you got that. And if you do have that, let us know. Send it to us. We may play it on the next show. So do get the merch. Give us a like and subscribe and follow and everything else. I will quickly run through everything else. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on the old Book of Face. And you can find us on the Gram of Insta. You can also find Steve.
He's gone.
He's gone again. We'll leave him out now. You can find Steve on the Gram of Insta. You can also follow Ian on the Gram of Insta.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And you can also follow Steve on the... Can't do that for anything else. So Twitter. So yes, all that is left to do is just get through these last couple of comments where Marco Barrett says, great show tonight, guys. We'll be in contact with you for your prize shortly. And Steve Plains has said goodbye because he's gone again. That's how much he's annoyed the Cornish. He says, have a great week, everybody.
Yeah,
and we're about...
They've just cut him off now, haven't they? And that's
They've cut him off completely, yeah. I'm not having that bugger moan about my internet again. Sod that. So, yeah, we're going to echo what Steve said, and we're going to say our goodbyes. So, Ian, if you'd like to say goodbye.
Yep. Goodbye, everybody. Have a great week, and hopefully see you all again next week. And I will never boycott pasties.
No, Steve, come on. We're not boycotting pasties. This ain't no protest. Deary me. Yes, and all that's left to say from me is a big thank you once again. And we will see you next week where we will have Scott Maynard, who is a developer for War Thunder, which is the PC/Xbox game, which will be a lot of fun to talk about sort of that side of things. We play it. I know we play it from time to time.
Yeah.
It's a pretty decent game. So yeah, we have good fun on there. And also to talk plane spotting and everything else. So do join us for that. But all that's left for me to say is take care, everybody. Have a wonderful evening. And ultimately, have a fantastic week. And we will see you next Sunday, 7 p.m. Be there or be square.
What?
Don't ask.
That's it. End it on a high note, Tom.
No. There you go. So thanks, everyone. Have a great week. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Ian. And a big thank you to everybody. We will see you 7 p.m. next Sunday for another wonderful show and episode 31. Take care, everybody. Have a great week. Cheers.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye. 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 Bye.